people are far better than their very worst deed. And Jodi Arias is a far better person than her very worst deed. Each and every one of you have your own moral decision that you have to make. Each and every one of you have to decide for yourselves if, despite her very worst deed, her life still has value. Back in December, when we first started choosing a jury, we all talked to you and asked you that question about whether or not if you found that somebody was guilty of a first-degree murder and it was cold-blooded and awful, could you still consider giving that person life in prison? And each one of you said that you could. This phase is different. It's different because the state of Arizona does not require you to execute somebody for first-degree murder. There is no requirement. In fact, the state of Arizona, the laws of Arizona, are always satisfied with life in prison. When we talk in this phase of the trial, it is different because we are now talking about a different burden. This whole time we have been talking about the burden of proof of beyond a reasonable doubt, and that the government had to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt, a very high standard. But we're no longer talking about beyond a reasonable doubt. And in fact, now the burden has changed. The burden has changed to a much lower standard, and the standard is now preponderance of the evidence. The state believes because there's been lying that she should get the death penalty for that. But lying is not a capital crime, and lying does not get you the death penalty, and lying isn't even an aggravating factor. It doesn't even qualify someone to get the death penalty. Mitigating factors are reasons that give you a reason for you to believe that there is something of value in Jodi's life. A reason to say that you can punish her with life in prison instead of execution. Mitigating factors are not excuses, and that is not why we're up here. They are not an excuse for what she did. You have already convicted her of first-degree murder for that. So we are not up here to talk about excuses for why she did it. Mitigating factors are reasons why you can find that they are sufficiently substantial to call for punishment of life in prison. Mitigating factors are completely unrelated to and separate from the first-degree murder conviction. And the judge read to you in those instructions that you have convicted her of first-degree murder. You've done that, and we're this far. But mitigating factors have nothing to do with excusing that crime, and they're completely unrelated and separate now from the actual crime itself. Mitigating factors are reasons that you can find that are sufficiently substantial to call for life in prison. You don't have to agree with your neighbor. Your decision is your own personal choice. It is your own moral choice whether or not you find it to be more true than not, that there is a reason to find value with Jodi's life, that there is a reason to punish her with life in prison. Having borderline personality disorder, having any personality disorder, is not an excuse. It is not an excuse for what she did to Travis. But it is a reason. It is a reason that you can find that is sufficiently substantial to call for life in prison. It is another reason that you have to be merciful. There is so much mitigation in this case. There are so many reasons that you, on your own, individually, can find to be merciful, that you on your own can find that are sufficiently substantial to call for life in prison instead of execution. And there is just one aggravating factor, just one. The strongest mitigating factor that you have before you is the fact that she has no criminal history. This is not something that she was doing over and over again. And while what she did was absolutely horrible, you have convicted her of that. Jody took Travis away. She took him away from his family, and she took him away from this world. But two wrongs do not make a right. Jody can still contribute to this world. Her life still has value, and you have a choice. A well-known attorney once said, when with imagination and understanding and faith, we can look inside our own hearts and find that all life is worth saving, and that mercy is the highest attribute. We are asking you to find that Jody's life is worth saving, and to have the ability to understand that despite her very worst deed, you can still show mercy and find that she still has value in her life and sentence her to a term of life in prison. Thank you.